they have been able to develop a model of consistency that really nobody has been able to come close to from an offensive standpoint in this sport, especially over the last half decade. Sean, they win the game by 34 tonight. 34. They beat Creighton 75-41. It's a Creighton team that was 10-3, that was 2-0 in the Big East. They've exceeded our expectations. But man, revenge it means something. They'll say it doesn't. It's human nature. 19 days ago, Villanova got their clocks cleaned. Tonight they sent a message. What did you see that they did that led them to such a dominant win?
I think you touching on the revenge factor definitely played a role here because they allowed them to 41 points. Creighton went 3 of 24 from 3. They shot 12% from 3. They shot the ball pretty well from deep the first time. So Villanova took that away from them. And Creighton's a pretty young team. So they were still shooting the 3. They were trying to rely on that 3 ball and it just wasn't going down. And when you're looking at the age difference between Creighton and Villanova, it's massive because you have Colin Gillespie. He's a 5th-year senior. You have Justin Moore. He's a junior. You have Jermaine Samuels. He's an extra year senior. Brandon Slater. He's a senior. Eric Dixon, sophomore. He's a sophomore. So then you compare it to Creighton. You have Ryan Hawkins, who's pretty old. You have Alex O'Connell, who's pretty old. Ryan Kalkbrenner is a sophomore. And then the other 2 starters are freshmen. And a lot of the bench are young guys too. So when Villanova, with the program they have, with the identity they have, they're going to beat those younger teams because they know how to win games already. They've done it at this program for a long time. And while Creighton's trying to figure out with this younger team how they're going to do that.
And I looked at the score late. And they're up big. And I think Gillespie had 0 points.
Big. Actually, a telling night for Villanova. I mean, Colin Gillespie had 21 on Saturday in the win over Seton Hall. And it felt like if he was off at all, it really hurt them. So this was a step. And the biggest thing for me is Jermaine Samuels is starting to come on. Mm-hmm. He had 11 and 11 at Seton Hall on Saturday. Tonight he goes for 18 and 7 on 6 of 11 from the field. Samuels has not been as strong as they would like him to be earlier this season. He was averaging just around 10 points per game coming into tonight. The fact is they expect him to be a 15, 16 point per game guy. And they need it because they lost Jeremiah Robinson Earl to the NBA draft.
Yeah.
So you bring back a super senior. I thought Samuels was big tonight. And that's telling, Steve, that they didn't need Gillespie to be his best self, and they could win the way they did.
No question. And the one thing we touched on when we talked about Villanova a couple of weeks ago, I mean, their schedule. I mean, I know they're 9-4, 10-4, whatever. I mean, they went and played at Baylor. Now, that was the Big East, Big 12 challenge, so they had to go there. They schedule a home and home with UCLA, and they go play them after UCLA is coming off a Final Four appearance. You know, that's 2 of their 4 losses, you know, and then they lose, you know, which obviously we talked about the Creighton loss, and then we're missing one. Purdue. You know, which everybody knows how good Purdue is.
And they led that game for a good portion.
And that's what I said. They were up 10, right? They were up 10.
UCLA too.
You know,
they were in the driver's seat against UCLA.
You know, and had to come back. And so, but I think the one telling point with Villanova that when you were asking that question, I think that they're at the point where they're, like I said, when they're recruiting, hey, he doesn't fit us. We don't want him. And some people may be like, you don't want that guy? And they're like, no, he don't fit us. He doesn't fit Villanova basketball. He doesn't fit the core values of Villanova basketball. You know, whatever they are. I don't know what they are, you know, but he doesn't fit us. But this guy right here, and you may be like, man, you sure? And 3 years later, Brandon Slater. 4 years later, a major, major impact. But how many guys in his situation would have transferred? You know? But they had the right guy that understands what he's at, where he's at, and why he's there, and what the end game is. And that's huge.
Coach, when you were coming up in the coaching ranks, and you'd be around the recruiting trail or you'd be looking around, like, is there a legend or is there a big name or a mentor to you that you think about that kind of you looked at as, yeah, he knows how to recruit because he doesn't settle. He doesn't go for just necessarily the stars next to a name. He goes for his guys.
I think I've learned that more now as I've gotten older. especially now after becoming a head coach, and obviously being, I've seen good, bad, ugly, I've seen it all as a head coach. And so I think after, going through it as a head coach, I think you learn that even more. Hey, what fits, what doesn't fit, and understand that there's different ways to win, from that standpoint. But I mean, that you could name several coaches. Obviously, you've got to have good players to win. That helps. But you also have to have players that fit you and fit your system and what your program, your university, and what you stand for. And he's done an amazing job with that, without a doubt. And, he's a guy that, when they won the national championship, I knew it was going to my fourth year at Iowa State. I knew we had a chance to be good. But that whole summer we worked with guys. It was all fundamentals. It was all 2 feet jump stops. It was all driving kicks, playing off 2 feet. But it was all the stuff that you had studied watching Villanova make their run to that national championship that year. And it paid dividends for that team going into that year with that group. We had a good group that year. So, but there's several. I mean, even, that you look up to and but even like Rick Pitino, I mean, he's as great of a coach he's won a lot different ways, with, and, and even guys at Louisville that, it's not just, 7th pick, 9th pick, 11th pick, 13th pick, you know what I mean? He's been able to win, a lot of different ways. And, now I go back when I was a manager at Kentucky, man, his team in 96, I was sitting ringside watching them. They were, holy smokes, were they good. But he's done it a lot of different ways. And I think all the great ones have had to do that at some point.